Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. We're going to be discussing the latest Hunger Games film, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now, it's not really a new movie anymore. It came out late last year. If you missed it, I did react to the trailer when it first dropped. So I'll put that somewhere around here. You'll be able to see it. But so if you missed that video, you can go back to my channel and check that out. But yeah, I missed it when it was in theaters, but I just recently watched the film, and so I was like, we got to talk about it because a lot happened in this film. And I am a fan of the original Hunger Games franchise and the novels as well. So I was just like, we got to talk about this. It was a really good movie, by the way. Um, I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so that should tell you something. And if you're not following me on Letterboxd, you can for sure. I'll put the link in the description to my profile if you want to check me out on there. I just kind of recently started using it, so I don't have like too many films on there, but that was on my watch list. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. So I watched it and I really enjoyed it. Just so you guys know, I will be talking spoilers in this review. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want it to be spoiled, just come back to this after you've watched the film. But yeah, we got to get into it for sure. So initially when I heard about the Hunger Games coming out with the prequel, I was for it because I really love the Hunger Games franchise as a whole. Like I just feel like the storytelling is really really good. So big ups to Suzanne Collins for that. And obviously like the way Jennifer Lawrence played Katniss and everything like that. Like just the whole story, it's brutal to watch at times, don't get me wrong, but the story for it to be a young adult novel, I feel like the story wasn't very adult, but it was like really really good and it was told from the perspective of a 17-year-old. But yeah, I've always enjoyed the Hunger Games. And like I said, I read all 3 books. So I was for it just for that because I was like, I really love this franchise and it's kind of nostalgic because it was a big thing when I was like a teenager. And so to see it come back, I was like, yes, but also like, okay, obviously Katniss and Peeta and the rest of them are not going to be in it because this is way before their time. So I'm like, okay, who is this about? And then when they just when they revealed that it was gonna be centered around snow, I was kinda like, it kinda dwindled my excitement a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But then I watched the trailer and I was like, "Okay, this looks interesting," but I was still I guess I was just on the fence because if you know the story, and I hope that if you're watching this, you do know the story. We know what Snow ends up becoming. We know that he ends up becoming President Snow. We know that he ends up being like really, really cruel. He's just such a hater to Katniss. Like that's really what he is. He's a straight up hater. This like horrible leader, if you want to call him that. And so I was like, does he even deserve an origin story? Like this man is crazy. Like I don't know if I really want to hear about how he became this way and all this stuff. So um that's why I was a little on the fence about it, but since I watched the movie, I was like, "No, this is really good." And I'm not gonna lie, I did buy the book when it first came out. I bought the book, like, years ago, and I left it on my bookshelf and let it collect dust. I just never read it. I don't know why. And I believe when I bought the book, I didn't really know it was about Snow. I just knew that it was a prequel. So I was like, "Okay, this is before Katniss," but I'm interested in learning about how the games even started. Like, where did this come from? Because I think it's touched upon a little bit in the first Hunger Games book, but again, we don't really know. We just know that like the world kind of like blew up, and then it turned into districts, and and then having the capital and everything was kind of like separated. So that's kind of what I was more interested in, like the history of like what happened to the world, I guess. But yeah, I guess the movie proved me wrong because I really enjoyed it, and so I wanna know what your thoughts are on the movie, on the book, and, if you enjoy this more than the original Hunger Games, I can't say for sure. I mean, it's pretty good, but, like, the original still I don't know, like, I shouldn't even say the original, but, like, Catching Fire was, like, my favorite movie out of the franchise. That was a really, really good one, and what's crazy is usually sequels don't do better than the original films, or they're just not like, they don't hold up a lot of times. And for me, like I love the Hunger Games, the first one, but I do think I remember watching it and I was like, this is a little slow. Like this is starting off a little slow. And the second one was just like, I mean, you were just immediately immersed into everything that was happening. Same thing with like Mockingjay Part 2. I would say those two are probably my favorite, Catching Fire and Mockingjay Part 2. I liked Part 1, but Part 1 a little it again, it was a little slow at parts, and I think because Peeta wasn't in the movie as much, and then just knowing, like, what was going on with this character was really sad, and, um, yeah, it just wasn't the same, I guess, without, Peeta and Katniss kinda being in most of the movie. So but I understood, like, why part 1 had to happen to kind of serve the story and everything, but I would definitely say those 2 were my favorite, but maybe Catching Fire if I had to choose one, 'cause that is just so good. Really good. I saw it, like, multiple times in theaters, that's how good it was. And this one, so like I said, it revolves around Snow, but he's 18 at the time, so around the same time that Katniss got reaped into the first Hunger Games, which is crazy to think about. Um and the movie does, by the way, I will be talking spoilers, so but the movie does kind of start you can see a little bit of what happened with the world, like how everything was, at war and things had kind of pretty much everything had like dismantled at that point. And then you kind of jump to when Snow is older, which by the way, why is his name why is his name Coriolanus Snow? Like, come on. Ugly name for an ugly person. That's what I say.
That's right, I said it.
I didn't know that Tigress was his cousin. Like, what? How did I not know that? Did they mention that in the books? I honestly don't remember. But I was so surprised to see them like with each other, like how close they were. And I mean, they were living together basically, like after Snow's dad. I mean, both of his parents really had died, but after his, dad had died, then it looked like he was with the grandma, and then she was with them as well, and I'm like, I didn't even realize that they were related, let alone that they were that close when they were younger, and again, knowing what happens to her later on is kinda, like, crazy, and but it's a good way to, like, put the pieces together, even though we don't see what happens in between the end of this movie and then the beginning of The Hunger Games, but yeah, it was just, like, all these little connections that was like, "Oh, wow," that I was thinking when I was watching this movie. Another thing that was really cool, or another connection that I noticed was, like, a lot of the I guess you wanna say, like, the sub characters their descendants were in the Hunger Games movie, so a good example of that was, we know Caesar Flickerman is, like, the anchor guy, and he's, reporting on the Hunger Games and everything like that. He was even, like, rooting for Katniss in the beginning, and then he turned on her, of course. Um, so his dad is which I assume was his dad, was an anchor in this one, and so I was like, "Okay, I see the connection, I see how he got into this job and how he was able to, I guess, be a part of the Capitol. Because you think too, it's like, so who said who was going where? Like, how did these people end up in the Capitol? How did these people end up in the district, and this specific district at that? And, I guess it's like a really big reflection of real life and just the classicism is very apparent in this movie. And we see how, kind of like if you were born into money, if your parents or whatever, your grandparents were a part of the capital, then you most likely will be in the capital for the rest of your life, or that's how you'll grow up. And then you'll be taught these certain things and you'll think you're better than than the people in the districts. And it's like crazy. And so I just think like if Katniss, just think if her parents were a part of the Capitol or whatever, that was how she grew up, like, that would've been a completely different story, and it's crazy because like, they don't have control over that. We none of us have control over, the family that we're born into and if we're born into money or not, but it's I don't know. I just think they show that so well in these types of movies. So we see Snow, and it looks like he's in school, and, he has a friend, Sejanus, which I think was, like, most of our, I don't wanna say favorite character, but he was up there, like, very well-liked character. He was pretty much the only one that was really outspoken about what they were doing and how it was wrong and how it was cruel, and I feel like, there could have been other people that were thinking that, but he was the only one that was, like, brave enough to actually say it, and he was saying it to the dean's face, he was saying it to Snow's face, he was saying it to, Dr. Gall's face, like, he said it out loud, like, "This is cruel," like, this is wrong, and of course they didn't listen to him, but I applaud him for even like speaking up on that. So I think a lot of us, enjoyed his character. Now, how he ended up sad, but also not super surprised because usually characters like that, when you have that one good character or that character that has really good intentions in these types of films, they always end up like it just always ends up bad for them. We believe that if Sejanus had not been hung. Spoiler, spoiler. I think that if he had like stuck by Snow and was like there with him by the time Snow became president, Snow would have had him killed. Like I 100% believe that. So I think that unfortunately, I think that even if he hadn't gone out the way that he did, I really feel like Snow would have had him killed, which he kind of did. Like in this, like by not speaking up, he kind of did get him killed, and by sending that recording. But I don't know. I just feel like that was gonna be his fate all along. Like he was gonna get caught up in something, and it was gonna end his life. So that was unfortunate. But like I said, I really enjoyed this character, and I kind of liked how even though him and Snow were friends, or at least he considered Snow a friend, like he still wasn't afraid to speak his mind and to go kind of like toe to toe with him and say, like, you know what, I like you, like you're my friend or you're my brother or whatever, but like this is how I feel and this is what I think. Like, despite it being the complete opposite of how you feel or how everybody else feels, like I'm telling you, it is what it is. So I like that about him. And then, of course, we get into Lucy Gray, who was Snow's love interest. And also, I think a lot of people were, I don't want to say comparing her to Katniss, but I think there was like some type of fan theory that was going on around the time that the trailer dropped that Lucy Gray was related to Katniss or like they were descendants of each other. And I think I believe Francis Lawrence, who is the director of all the Hunger Games films, I believe he came out and said that wasn't true. Um, so we know that's not the case, but they are both from District 12, so they do have that connection. And I think just the fact that like Lucy Gray was very not afraid to speak her mind, like outspoken. They both kind of had that like fighter spirit to stay alive. And I think, I guess a big difference with Katniss was that she was very reluctant to ever like to be a voice for people. Like she was just like, I'm just trying to get out of this. I'm just trying to keep my family safe, protect my sister and protect my friend. Like, and I guess you could call that selfish or whatever, but it wasn't like she really signed up to be a symbol of hope. She didn't want to be a leader for the longest time, which I don't blame her because she was really young. And like I said, the only thing she wanted to do was protect her family. And I feel like that's something that most people would feel. And so there's that difference because Lucy Gray didn't have that pressure on her. I mean, I think obviously people probably from her district were pulling for her to win, but I think the main person that really wanted her to win outside of that was Snow, and it was, because he wanted that prize. And so yeah, there was like some big differences, but also like some similarities between the two characters. But I liked her character as well. Also, she has a lovely voice. The actress Rachel Zegler, I believe that is really her singing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but she has a really, really nice voice. But yeah, I love her voice. Very lovely voice. Um, and I love that she used that to her advantage a little bit in the games and kind of to like, I guess to kind of woo people or to, you know, kind of the same way Peeta did, where he was able to capture people's attention, and that was something that Katniss she couldn't do it in that way. Like the way Peeta was just so personable and was able to talk to people and make them laugh and make them smile. And I think Lucy Gray had a little bit of that. She could put on a show, you know what I mean? And clearly Snow saw that in her and utilized that, and that was, a big part of the reason why people were rooting for her, why she was like getting donations and then I guess we're not gonna really talk about Snow cheating. That was kind of why she won, but you know what I mean. Like that was the reason why I think she was able to get people's attention. So that kind of reminded me of Peeta a little bit. So that was nice to kind of see. I don't know if they wrote that to kind of like if that was like a nod to Peeta or if that was just a part of her personality, but that was where my mind went when I would see her say certain things or the way she would kind of like, sing or flaunt herself and everything. So the song that Lucy Gray sings in the field, the Hanging Tree song, which we know that Katniss sings later on, in the movies. So I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so if this was Lucy Gray's song, like if she wrote it, if this was original song of hers, how the heck did it get passed down to Katniss like 60, 65 years later? Um, I know that Lucy Gray, like, went around performing and stuff, so I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to remember if she performed that song in front of an audience. Maybe my mind is just going blank, but I just remember her singing it in the field, and I know Snow heard it, so I know he knows the song. So I'm like, well, if they were the only 2 that heard it, how did it get passed down to, like, generations for, like, Katniss and, the people in District 12 to know that song? So I thought that was kinda interesting. I feel like maybe I missed something there, but let me know in the comments if that was, something that was talked about in the book or if she sang it in front of an audience because I don't remember. I really don't remember. I don't know. All of that, like all that connection to Katniss, I always wonder how that made Snow feel later on. Like by the time he kind of maybe started recognizing those things about Katniss that he used to once like about Lucy Gray, it makes me think like, wow, that must have really messed up his brain because we don't know what ever happened to her. And that was like the biggest mystery of this film. What happened to Lucy Gray? Let's start a campaign. Where is Lucy Gray? What happened to Lucy Gray? And again, I don't know if they say it in the books or not. I'm assuming no, because I haven't really heard anybody say like, usually if you'll go on the comments or something, people will be like, oh, in the book it says she did this or did that. I haven't seen that. So let me know if y'all know what happened to Lucy Gray. I am very glad that she got away from Snow, but I'm very curious to know if she was able to, like go and live her own life and maybe like get married, have kids or something like, or did she get caught and they killed her? I don't know. Did Snow catch her and kill her? I don't know. I'm hoping that that's not the case. Um, because I'm thinking she probably got away and just stayed off the grid maybe for the rest of her life. I don't know. And I'm wondering if she was still alive and still around by the time Katniss was reaped. And did she see like Katniss evolution? Did she see the uprising that Katniss caused? Like, I'm really curious to know that. What are your fan theories? If it's not in the book, tell me what you think or what you would have liked to see, because I don't know if they're ever gonna do like a continuation of her story. I feel like that was kind of the end for her. If they did do another prequel, I feel like it would continue to follow Snow, but I feel like she probably wouldn't be a part of it unless they change something for like, creative purposes or for film purposes. But I'm curious. So let me know your fan theories because I really want to know what happened to Lucy Gray. The victors in this were pretty like, I mean, I thought they were harsh in the Hunger Games one, but in this one they were pretty harsh too, even without like the training. And they really didn't have, I mean, they had weapons, but it wasn't, obviously it wasn't as technology, it wasn't as advanced as we see it in the newer, Hunger Games movies. But yeah, that I mean, they were pretty aggressive, which I mean, I guess you can't blame them because none of them want to die. It's not like they chose to be in there, but I'm sorry, but a couple of them people when they died, I was like, yeah, they need to go because they were doing too much. Like that one girl, I don't remember her name, but she was kind of, bitchy from the beginning. The one with like I don't know, she had like a bowl haircut, and then I remember she was already kind of acting mean a little bit in the beginning, and then of course she was going after like everybody, and she formed that alliance, and then she was doing too much. But again, I understand again because you go into survival mode, but at the same time, it was like, dang, like she was really just killing people left and right, and it didn't look like she had any mercy. And it wasn't really up until the end of her death where she was like, I did all this for nothing, and I'm like, girl, all of this is for nothing. This whole entire thing is for nothing. All these kids dying, getting like the reap, everything, all of this is for nothing because this does nothing. All it is a game. It's literally a game. It's for amusement, it's for enjoyment, it's for control. Like it's all, but it's all for nothing, like at the end of the day. And so again, I kind of felt bad for her in that movie, but at the same time, it was like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like, come on now. Even if she had one, and they said this in the games, like you win, you don't. It doesn't stop there. Like you're still gonna always be a part of this. They're gonna have you doing something. You're gonna be a mentor. You're gonna have to do this and do that. You're gonna have to put on a show for the cameras. Like it just doesn't stop. It didn't stop until Katniss stopped it. So I don't know. I honestly don't even know if like winning would be any better than getting killed. That sounds really like horrible, but I'm serious. Because I know, shoot, if I was in there, I'd be like, deuces. I'd be like, Mags, walk into the fog, take me out so I can be done with it. And yeah, like I'm just not dealing with it. I couldn't deal with it. I would go crazy for sure. Another thing that we saw, I guess kind of the beginning of was the creation of all these like what do you call them? Like would you call them mutations, I guess? Like the snakes and all these different creatures that Dr. Gall was creating. I guess that was kind of the beginning of that, of them putting like mutts in the game and to make it harder and everything like that. Because I assume that maybe the first 10 years that they maybe weren't doing that, or maybe not to that extent. And it was more of just grab your weapon and fight till the death type thing. But then obviously as the years went on, like they said, people kind of stopped watching because I guess it was kind of just like, okay, like we see this every year, like, which again, sickening, like to even get used to that. Oh my god. But I guess people were kind of like, we're kind of tired of seeing this, and this is just really messed up. And then obviously like Snow's ideas kind of turned it into the games that we see later on, with Katniss and Peeta and everything. So it's just, man, it's crazy to think that uh, the whole entire games was really just like a thought that the dean had, and it wasn't even something that he really wanted to do. I don't know. I guess the idea was thought out of like anger or whatever, but and I guess he was drunk too, so that was a big thing. But the fact that Snow's dad took that idea and like brought it to them was like, we should do this, and that was why that was why we got that, like the world turned into a Hunger Games. That is crazy to me. And again, it's like too close to home. That's like a reflection of real life where people come up with the dumbest ideas and they're like, we should do this. And everybody's like, yeah, we should. And it's like, bro, like you're not even thinking about the future. You're just thinking about right now. It doesn't make sense right now, and it definitely won't make sense 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. Like, come on. Obviously, the Hunger Games part of it is always like the part where you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I hope she survives. That's like the really, really brutal part of it. But the story as a whole, like when you're just finding out all these connections and everything, is like crazy. It's like crazy that she even thought to write this. I mean, and to connect it back to like Katniss and Peeta, and for it to actually make sense, because I think that's kind of hard to do too. Once you've written a story and you've completed that story, then to go back and go, well, this is what led up to that. Like I feel like that. I imagine that maybe that would be a little bit harder than writing a continuation, than to say this is what happened to Katniss and Peeta afterwards. Like, I mean, she could have easily done that and showed them like with their family and everything, but she was like, no, let's go back. Let's go back in time and let's tell the story of Snow. And I mean, it worked. It was a great movie. Like I said, um, I recommend it if you're a fan of the Hunger Games. Definitely check it out. And I do want to read the book, so when I have access to it, when I have time, I will read the book. But the movie itself was very good. So congrats to everybody, cast and crew, director, Suzanne Collins, everybody that was a part of the film did a really great job. Um, like I said, I don't know if they plan on continuing that to go deeper into Snow's story, or even going further back and seeing like the first Hunger Games. I feel like at some point they probably will try to do that. I don't know. But hopefully if they do that, like it has to actually make sense to the story, because I don't want them to start forcing movies out and then it kind of ruins the franchise. So but this one was good, very good. By the way, y'all, that part where I forgot the girl's name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The girl that was mocking the other girl behind the cage. The fact that they put them in a cage, it was treating them like zoo animals. Again, a reflection of real life. That's a part of our history. If you know, you know. But I Anyway, I remember the girl's name, but again, she was kinda mean from the beginning too, and she was talking about Lucy Gray, and she's like, "Why is she singing? She's acting crazy," and it's like, you're not even in her shoes to even say how she should act, so please. And then on top of that, she gonna taunt the girl with the drink knowing that she's thirsty and hasn't eaten. That's why she got stabbed. Do I feel bad for her? Not really, because you shouldn't have been doing that. It was unfortunate that both of them got killed that day, but it was just like, bro, like, why would you do that? Again, cruel. Like the stuff that they were doing, the stuff that these Capital kids, it wasn't even just the adults, it was like the kids too. The stuff that they would say or think out loud, it was like crazy. And that's what I'm saying. It all just goes back to like the types of family that they were born in, being born into money, and then being born like in the capital or around capital people. And they just have a completely different mindset than the people in the districts. And they have no idea how hard it is to live like that, to live like the people. And I think District 12 was like one of the poorest districts, I think. I know they did like coal mining, but I feel like they were pretty bad. Um and I feel like that, proof is like that Katniss was like literally starving and Peeta had to like throw bread at her just to feed her. So it's like you have the nerve to talk anyway. That scene was like oof. Oof, that was one of those scenes anyway. There was a lot of scenes like that, but definitely check it out. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do and click the notification bell so that way you don't miss when I upload or if I go live. You don't want to miss that as well. Let me know what you think about the movie in the comments and how it compares to the other Hunger Games movie. Maybe like who was your favorite character? Would you like to see a continuation of Snow Story? I'm kind of like, I don't know because this was so good and I don't want to mess up the franchise, but I am kind of curious to see like what happened after this. What was the in between the first one and then the first Hunger Games? So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thank you guys for watching and for tuning in. I will see you next week. And I have more interviews to come, have more content to come. So I'm excited to do that. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys then. Bye.